What's up, guys? Andre here, and what you're about to hear is one of the topics from episode 2 of our brand new Real Talk podcast, which goes up every Monday. Now, if you'd like to listen to the entire podcast, just click on the iTunes or SoundCloud links in the description below. Oh, and if you back us on Patreon, you can listen to our podcast 3 days early every Friday. Okay, so let's get to the topic on hand.
Alright, my topic is from Austin Kelly, and I'm sorry, I think I've kind of paraphrased it a bit potentially, but what game that you're most excited about, but ultimately were disappointed with? So for me, the first one that came to mind was Star Fox Adventures. Rare, my favorite company at the time. That was like their last game. I knew it had some troubles with Nintendo, especially with going to E3 and asking the Nintendo rep what's the relationship with Rare right now, and getting the answer, it's business as usual.
Oh gosh.
That basically meant it is not business as usual.
Yeah.
And it started out pretty good, that game, and some things were a bit rough. I liked how you could just slide down a ladder. You can kind of shift a box sideways instead of walking around the box. Like while you're pulling it, you could kind of shift it a little bit to the right instead of walking all the way around to the other side and pulling it again. Things like that were neat. But then I got to, it was supposed to be one dungeon to get a piece that was required, and it ended up just being a race around a sort of a bunch of caves, and it's like, this isn't a dungeon. What's going on here? And then finally wanting to beat up General Scales the whole time, and spoiler alert for those of you who haven't played a game from year 2000, all of a sudden Andros comes in and you're like, hey, it's you. It's that guy General Scales was talking to that I didn't know, and it's Andros, and he just kills General Scales right there, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna fight Andros now. But it was like Rare knew this was their last game for Nintendo and made lame Andros, where he just kind of haphazardly kind of floated his hand across the screen to swipe at you like he didn't care. I mean, those things just stuck in my mind. And, like, this is the last Rare game for a Nintendo system, and just a big disappointment in the last half of that game.
Yeah. I don't mind that game.
It looked awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind Star Fox Adventures that much. I played it the whole way through and had somewhat fun with it, but it always did feel like sort of a lesser Zelda the entire time. It really didn't feel like its own identity, especially even during the Star Fox, the actual R-Wing sections. You weren't really doing all that much interesting in the R-Wing. It wasn't anything interesting to fight. And then again, that people talk about Hijacked by Ganon. Hijacked by Andros is so much worse in this game.
Yeah, it really is.
It's crazy, and I just remember being sort of underwhelmed by that reveal. It's like, really? All right.
Yeah. I didn't hate it, but yeah, it was certainly disappointing. But I will say, amazingly, even by today's standards, it's not a bad looking game. It still looks pretty nice.
It still has some of the best fur and grass effects. Granted, I haven't played it for a while, but I do remember it being incredibly impressive for the fur and grass effects. So, the grass had actual depth to it.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
there was something about GameCube games that a lot of them they hold up so damn well.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron I bet holds up.
That game had better CG than the special edition.
When I was trying to get Paper Mario to set up the stream, it's like seeing Thousand Year Door, like going from 64 to Thousand Year Door, and just seeing how the colors popped and everything looked so good. I'm like, holy crap! That's such an upgrade, and it still looks so good.
It really is pretty much a first 3D for the first 3D era where the games hold up over time. Like, they don't look terrible by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Star Fox was disappointing. It wasn't a terrible game. It wasn't good either, and I really don't know if I could bring myself to ever replay that game. But it is very tedious at points, as I recall. But the presentation was great, and I actually thought they did a pretty good job capturing the sound of the original voice actors, even though they had all new voice actors that were British. They did a pretty good job capturing the original feel.
They did.
Yeah.
I'll just say, I was just going to say, for my standard of Rare at the time, that's sort of why it's disappointing to me. Like, Like, I know what you're saying is like it was good but not great, but like compared to what I expected from Rare, then
you're expecting fantastic and amazing.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go next. I had a couple of games in mind for this question. I was originally going to go with Final Fantasy XII because I didn't like that game at all, but then I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I knew going in, just based on all the preview stuff I'd seen and what I knew about it going in, that I probably wasn't going to like it as much, and I was right. So it didn't disappoint me that much in that sense. But another Square Enix game did, and that is The Third Birthday, which excuse me, The Third Birthday, which is the third game in the Parasite Eve series, and it's kind of hard for me to overstate just how much I hate that game. Wow. I mean, I really, really, really dislike that game because Parasite Eve is an awesome game. And Aya Brea was one of the coolest, toughest, most badass female lead characters in a video game, like, ever. Like, before it even became, like, a thing where where, like, it was a problem because there weren't enough of these characters. Aya Brea did it first, she did it best, and she's awesome. Parasite Eve 2, a bit more of a Resident Evil vibe, still a good game. The Third Birthday took everything awesome about Aya, everything awesome about Parasite Eve, and absolutely just farted on it. Just farted on the entire
I'm just imagining somebody just leaning over the game and just farting as hard as they can.
Just letting loose.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining somebody farting on a birthday cake.
That's kind of what it felt like. Now, The Third Birthday had been delayed so many times for the PSP, and when it finally came out, I was like, you know what, I heard some weird things, but this is Parasite Eve. It's finally here. I'm going to see the next chapter of the story. No way. Like, they added some weird stuff about time travel. They turned Aya into this, like, there's a story, spoilerish reason for it, but they basically turned into this, like, whiny, wet blanket, like, just super weak female character, and that's not who she is at all. And the gameplay was just, it wasn't fun. It just wasn't, it was a mere shadow of what Parasite Eve was supposed to be. And it really just...
So it's like Metroid Other M.
It is kind of like that. It's kind of like the Square Enix version of Metroid Other M. And it really just, it kind of killed the series, unfortunately. And I love Parasite Eve. I thought it was a great, weird kind of new direction for Square to take, and then The Third Birthday just killed it.
Parasite Eve, it's interesting that the very first Parasite Eve I love. It just had such a unique combat system that was so different at the time. It had really great graphics at the time, because I believe it came out before Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah, it did.
So it had these realistic models, like you're still going from Final Fantasy VII to Parasite Eve, and it looks amazing. You get these really creepy atmospheres, and I remember, like, being for an RPG, I'm like, this is an RPG. Why am I scared?
Yeah, it was like a survival horror RPG.
Yeah, it was so freaky. And then I was so excited for Parasite Eve 2, and it was Resident Evil, and at the time I wasn't a huge Resident Evil fan because I didn't like the controls or anything, and the combat just felt completely off. And because of that, the only thing I remember from the game is like the boss fight against the giant guy in the hotel.
Yeah,
and then right before that is the shower scene that they used to advertise that game to high hell.
Yeah, they sure did. They got a lot of mileage out of that shower scene.
Oh yeah, it's like that was the big scene. It's like shower scene with the hot blonde girl.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, cool, thank you.
And you didn't need that in Parasite Eve 1 to sell it. Like, Aya was just cool, and she was sexy because she was a badass. You didn't have to sell it with a shower scene.
Yeah, she was on a date. That's how it starts. She's on a date to see this thing, and then all hell breaks loose, and she confronts it. It's awesome. And I haven't played Third Birthday at all because I heard so many bad things. Then I heard even more bad things from you. I'm like, okay.
I'm so angry that I played that game through to completion. I regret that I can't get that time back in my life.
Does it actually have anything to do with the Parasite Eve story, or is it just sort of its own thing?
It does, but it's so far removed that it might as well not. Like, it is technically part of the continuity, but it just ruins everything so much. Like, it might as well be its own thing. It really is barely recognizable.
Plus, it had the stupid mechanic of damaging her clothes.
So as Aya took damage, her clothes took damage, and then by the time she's at 1 HP, she's almost naked, and it's just like, that's not what Aya was about. Like, she was cool because she was cool. She didn't need to be over sexualized. She was just sexy. Like, yeah,
Dead or Alive 5 territory.
It was what?
Yeah.
Dead or Alive 5
Yeah,
territory.
it kind of is, and it just made it feel really beefcakey and just really kind of just stupid. And it's just a shame because it used to be such a great series.
Yeah, I'd love to see a revival of Parasite Eve.
Me too.
Yeah, it's not a disappointment for me since I didn't actually play it. So I guess I was trying to think of this, like, what game really disappointed me? And when I finally came to is Final Fantasy VIII. It was such a huge disappointment for me, especially because I was so hyped for it. Coming off of Final Fantasy VII, my very first RPG, I was massively into the RPG series. That's why I picked up Parasite Eve, because it was a Squaresoft game. It's like, okay, these guys are so good, they can make anything so fun. And 8 was, looked great. It had that Parasite Eve sort of style to it. It looked realistic, air quotes and all that.
Yeah.
And then you play it and draw, stock, draw, stock, draw, stock, over and over and over and over again. It's just, like, I was in denial for a while. Like, I was going along with the plot and everything, and it just, by the third disc, I was getting so bored. And I couldn't do it. I eventually did beat the game. I forced my way through it. But the thing is, I hated the mechanic of the final boss where they randomly picked your party members. And I didn't do any of that. So I was like, for the first time ever, I borrowed a friend's Game Shark, put in the invincibility code, and then beat it that way just so I could see the end. Because I was done with the game. The combat sucked so much.
But that ending, though. That ending.
It's a weird ending.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was fantastic. But... yeah, I mean, the game is... I definitely suffer from not being another Final Fantasy VII. I wasn't as disappointed by it as you were, but I definitely know where you're coming from.
It was such a flawed experience, and I think it was just... I think the biggest problem with it, and the thing that just got me, is like 7 kept me pumped, kept me moving, kept me interested in everything, and 8 just became so tedious.
But you know what I do like about 8, though? Like, really, I think its greatest contribution to the series is the fact that if you just go back and look at it and don't take it seriously, it's psycho. That game is psychotic. It's like playing a fever dream. Like, so many weird things happen in that game, and it's just, none of it really makes a whole lot of... It's a strange experience. That's really the only way I can describe it. It's weird.
Alright, well, I guess I'll give my choice, which was... I mean, there are multiple games I've been disappointed by, but one of the key ones that stands out over all this time is still Donkey Kong 64. And that game is just a mess. There's too many characters, too many collectibles, there's way too much going on that's not just purely platforming like the original trilogy. So, I mean, it basically tried to do for Donkey Kong what Mario 64 did for Mario. It just went about it in the worst possible way. And it just wasn't that engaging to me. It didn't capture neither the atmosphere nor the fun of the original trilogy. And on top of that, it was pretty buggy. I remember having a bunch of glitches, including one where it fell through a room as it was rotating, and I think that was a pretty common bug. So yeah, I had really high expectations for the game because it's freaking Donkey Kong in 3D. I mean, the original trilogy was branded as basically a 3D game, and now we're getting it in true 3D. And it just wasn't that great.
Well, let me get this straight. You mean you don't like collecting 100 color-coded bananas for each character in every level? Why ever not?
All 5 characters in every world? Yeah. Oh my god.
Why wouldn't you enjoy that?
The best part about that game was finding the classic Donkey Kong arcade game and playing that instead.
That's true, but remember how hard it was to get the whatever it was, a golden banana, whatever it was, tied to that?
the coin or whatever?
Yeah.
Like, you had to do that, and then Jetpack had one too, the classic
That's right,
Jetpack
and they were
game.
both really hard.
Yeah,
I love how it wasn't just 200 bananas in that game. Wasn't it like 201 was the 100% mark?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've never actually played that game. I just watched my friend fight the final boss fight against K. Rool, and he was telling me about all the crap he had to collect. I'm like,
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like, all that for every character in every level. That just seems so redundant, unless they found a way to make it different for each of those characters, and I get the feeling they didn't.
No, they definitely did not. I mean, the game it just didn't feel refined. You had different characters, they had different forms for each character, they had different weapons for each character, they had different collectibles for each character. There was too much, it was too divided an experience.
Oh,
whereas with
the coconut gun that fires and spurts.
Oh, if he shoots you, it's going to hurt.
Yep.
I think that is the greatest contribution the game had.
It is that and Tiny Kong, because Tiny Kong in DK64 she's fine, whatever. She's inoffensive enough, but what they have turned Tiny Kong into...
Oh my god.
You listeners, if you don't know what Tiny Kong is now, just Google her.
Don't Google it.
Don't Google her and see how...
With Safe Search on.
With Safe Search on. But just look at how unbelievably offensive she is. That might be DK64's greatest claim to fame. It's just introducing this character that became incredibly offensive.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they were thinking with Tiny Kong, because she ended up looking older. She's Dixie Kong's younger sister, and she ends up looking older, along with all the other crap.
Wait, was she officially Dixie's sister?
I think it was a cousin, wasn't it?
Was it cousin?
Maybe it was cousin.
I remember her being younger than Dixie and related to Dixie in some way.
Well, the whole Donkey Kong family is a mess at this point.
We have to call this episode like debating the Donkey Kong family tree or something.
Like, one of them inbred with another.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's how Baby Kong came around.
Oh, God.
It was Chunky Kong with Chunky Kong.
Well, then how do we explain Lanky Kong? What inbreeding resulted in Lanky Kong exactly?
Right. Oh, man.
That was one of the Kremlins and Diddy Kong.
That's a terrifying thought.
And thankfully, that's where that topic ended. So anyways, if you want to listen to the entire podcast, again, please check out the links in the description below, either to SoundCloud or iTunes. And we again post those every Monday for everyone, or 3 days early for Patreon backers. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Of course, keep an eye on Game Explain for more on Nintendo and other things gaming as well. Catch you later. Bye.